In this video tutorial, we're going to show how a user can consider pore strips for a two-way or one-way post-tension slab in ADAPTBuilder. And this is specific to ADAPTFloor Pro, and we're going to use a two-way slab as our example. So we'll go ahead now and get started. We're going to launch ADAPTBuilder, and in Builder in the splash screen, we're going to select the option for Floor Pro with PT. We'll be using the US unit system, and we'll select OK, and we're just going to model a simple slab here. We're going to model this using the floor wizard, and we're going to have to make a few modifications for banded tendons, for example. So we'll go ahead and model with the floor wizard. In the X direction, we're going to have 10 spans, and the span lengths we're going to say are 30 feet. We'll change the column size to a 20 by 24. In the Y direction, we're going to have 3 spans. Those are going to be 28 feet. And then we have just some loading. We're not going to really do anything with the loading. And we're going to model both distributed and banded tendons just by default using the floor wizard. Okay, so we have this long rectangular slab, which is really too long, maybe for the length of the tendon, and also if we have any restraint issues in plane, then this could be problematic. We're going to go ahead and actually force a couple of restraint issues. We're going to put an arrangement of shear walls that look something like this, and replace these columns. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, with this particular condition, we're going to need to add a pore strip. Maybe we'll just center it in this span. We'll assume that it's shored during construction until it's closed. You know, we could make the pore strip so that it's offset from either of these frame lines, but we'll just select an arbitrary location in the middle of this bay. So to do this, let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to visibility and select default display just to turn off the tendons, and I'll come into model, and I'm going to model just some walls, and I'll change the wall thickness here. I'll just change these to 14 inch thick walls. Okay, and we're going to use the snap option here. So we're going to snap to the center of the column like so, and we'll just create the walls. I'll just leave the columns in place. We don't really need to delete those for any particular purpose associated with the tutorial here. So we have our walls. Now, because the program assumes when we analyze that everything is installed at the same day and achieves full strength instantaneous, there's really no sequencing to speak of at this point in ADAPTFloor Pro. So the purpose of really modeling a pore strip is just to be able to properly adjust where the tendons terminate, the anchor at which they terminate, and also how to set up our design strips. So the pore strip can be modeled either as just a polygon, meaning lines, or it could be modeled or a polygon created from lines, or it could be modeled as a separate slab entity. We're going to model it as a separate slab entity, just so the user sees that particular way and instance of modeling this. So the first thing I'll do is I want to center it on these columns. Okay, so I'll use the home. I'm going to go to a line tool, and I'll just create a line here. And then I want to turn on snap to midpoint and also snap orthogonal. And now I can create this line, you know, slicing this slab. And I'm going to take this line and I'm going to offset this in the X direction. We'll say -2 feet. We're going to say the pore strip is 4 feet. And then actually I moved it. Now we're going to copy it over 4 feet. So the line is selected. I'll make this a positive 4 feet. Positive and negative correspond to the global axes. And this ultimately becomes the line work that I can create the pore strip from. So we're now going to take this modeling option here, and we're going to go ahead and model a new slab in this region. Okay, so I'm going to use the snap to intersection. I'll turn off snap orthogonal. That's not as useful here for this. and I'll just model that slab. Now, because we have three slabs that are identical in thickness and offset 1, 2, and 3, this is really an illegal way to model this. We can't have these overlapping. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this point all the way back here. I'll pull this point all the way back, and then I'll model this third slab. So all of the slabs are abutting. In order to do that, again, I'm going to use this line tool. I'm just going to create a snappable mark point there. And we'll go ahead and just pull this all the way back to here. And then I'll come back and just model the slab again, like so. Okay. Now I have three unique slab regions. I can remove these lines if I want and delete those. I'm done using those construction lines. We're going to go ahead now and save this. Okay, now we're going to turn on the tendons. So we'll go back to tendon, show tendons, and in this case, the banded tendons are running north-south. The uniform tendons are now running east-west. So this becomes a little bit difficult, or let's say a little more time-consuming to deal with when we have tendons that have already been modeled. If I had not modeled the tendons, then I could easily just model these to the face of the pore strip on one side and model them to the face on the other side, and I'm done with that. But to post-edit the tendons becomes a little more involved. So what we're going to do first is I'm actually going to delete. We're not going to really edit them. We're going to delete them and remodel them just to show that process because it's a bit easier. But I'm actually going to do that on the top half, and in the bottom half I'm going to edit. I'll show both ways. So what I'll do first is we're going to take what I'll call a master tendon here, and I'll right click and delete points on the tendon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to actually I'll leave that 7th point. I'm going to move that all the way over to here, okay, at the face of the pore strip. The spacing between the tendons, if I go to home and just measure this spacing is 1.87 feet. So now we're going to take this tendon, but before I do that, I want to make sure I have the right shape for this end span. If we double click on that tendon, and I look at that shape, this is actually a cantilever down. That might be the shape we want. Maybe we just want a straight shape that anchors at the CG of the slab. The slab is 8 inches thick. If we're trying to create a shape that kind of has reverse parabola, if we were to project it out, then we would have to use a different shape and somehow manipulate that particular shape. So I could use we could use a partial parabola, for example. We could use a reverse parabola and just modify and manipulate the points, or an extended reverse. So we're going to say that this is our shape. We anchor it at the CG on both sides of the pore strip. And now I'll go ahead and I'll copy this. So we're going to modify by coordinates. This is going to be in the negative y direction, negative 1.87. I don't know how many there are. We're going to say there's 15. We'll see where that takes us. So we copy those down, and that's how we would edit this particular direction. I'm going to copy another 12 down. This is 12 copy. Okay, so that gets us back to where we were. Now, what I will do with this cable, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is copy it. So I'm going to I'm going to mirror it first, and then I'll copy. Okay, so we're going to select the tendon, and we're going to go to the option modify, and we want to mirror this. We're going to mirror it off of this point, and the end point will be that slab edge. So we have a vertical mirror line, and this becomes our new tendon. Okay, and then I could basically just move that tendon from this point over to a point along this edge. Now, I might need to use a construction line to grab that point. So I can select this point, I can select modify, move in plane, and I can select the base point and then my reference point over here, and we'll say move. Okay, now I need to modify this this tendon. Okay, it has too many spans, so we're going to go ahead and I'll just delete that point right there, and then I can come back and move this point and then adjust the end span again. So this end span is a reverse parabola. I want that to be a cantilever down. Now notice when we mirror it, the mirror does not flip this image. So now we're kind of working from both directions, which can be confusing. So rather than mirror, what we recommend is really just to move this, to copy it over to this point. So I deleted that line. I shouldn't have deleted that. We're going to come back, create that construction line again, and I'll just use Control C, Control V. Okay, and then again, we're going to delete out some points, really just one point, and I'll move that over to there, and I'll modify the shape again as needed. Okay, and then I can copy those. I can copy those down. We have what, 27 copies, so we'll go to modify, and we're going to copy this. Okay, and that's a modification. Now, if we were to model this, obviously we would just simply model one side, copy down, model the other side, copy down. So that's what we'll show now. This is similar in nature to what we did previous, but rather than actually modeling this, I'm just going to modify this first one. Okay, and again, I'll come back and delete some points. There's my first. I'm not going to change that end span, but there's the first tendon. Now I can copy that vertically. Again, we'll use the Y direction 1.87. I'll copy this, let's say 20 times. Okay, and then if I was to actually create a tendon here and have it be in alignment wherever we want to place that, I'm going to select this endpoint, for example. Okay, I want to create the tendon on top of that line, so we'll go to model the tendon. I'm going to add a tendon. This is my anchor point, and then I can just kind of eyeball the center of these bands. That's how we have the others set up. Okay, and then I'll use the option for snap intersection. And once we've done that, then we can go ahead and define the properties of this tendon, the number of strands, the effective stress or calculated stress or force, and the shape, and then we could again just copy that vertically using the modify option. So we'll do 1.87. This is probably 35. We have overlap, we have multiple tendons here, but that's basically how we would model against the pore strip. The same process could be done in the banded direction. These are just more modeled tendons. Okay, if we look at the design strips, if I turn on my X strips, you can see this is continuous through the pore strip. So there's which is okay. We're going to get design cuts along here. There will be a cut in this zone, which will basically be designed. This will be designed as an RC section. These others will be designed as PT because they're being cut by the post-tensioning. So you'll actually get the amount of rebar necessary in the pore strip that might be spliced and overlapped through that strip, as long as we have these support lines being generated. So in the other direction, we have strips that are probably going to end up, ending up inside of the pore strip in the long direction. So we might want to avoid that. What we'll do in this case is we're going to just use a Y splitter, and I'll put a splitter along that edge and along that edge. And once I've done that, I can generate my strips. I'm going to turn off the strip generation. You can see there's the section cut inside the pore strip. You could disjoint this. You could actually stop this here, put a small a small support line there, and then start it again. And in the new upcoming version, for any design cut or any support line or strip, you actually have the option to set the spacing of sections, or actually to define the number, max number of sections within a strip. So you can control the density of section cuts even within a small length of 4 feet. Okay, so in the other direction, what we have is this. Now, if I wanted to get a transverse set of cuts through this, I would then need to model, again, another support line, like so. And here I might say, okay, for this particular strip, I want to have at least the minimum number of sections is 3. Maybe I want that to be 50. And I'll generate the strips again. Okay, this support line may be too long for that input there, so let's go to max number of sections per span. We'll say that this is 50 and regenerate. Okay, there we go. Now we get strips inside of the support line along the strip path. So this is how we would model that type of a condition. If you have any questions, please let us know, and you can contact us at support@adaptsoft.com. Thank you.